And we are live and direct. Welcome to episode number 25 of the Risk Reward Show. My name is Chris Mercado, aka Mr. Risk. And as usual, I am joined by
Derek, aka Mr. Reward.
That's right. And we are here to help you find the upside in your career, in your finances, in your business ventures. And I'm excited to ring in this episode number 25 with our opening segment, our Risk Reward Weekly Rewind. And we will start off with actually the Olympics. So, Derek, take it away with your thoughts on Simone Biles.
Um, to start off, I will say that I feel like the initial reaction that a lot of people had was that she's weak, she's this, she's that. But I feel like as the world had more time to really think about what's happening and to really understand like what's going on, there is a lot of bravery in her just stepping out. Um, one, I think another thing that people have to realize is that every 4 years, like ever since 2016, it has been all eyes on her. And I feel like, sports like basketball and baseball, you think about but the Olympics is literally every 4 years. So every 4 years, this is when she has the entire nation looking on her. And she has to be perfect. There's no you can miss like a flip or something like that. Like if she were to miss something, she could possibly break something and possibly just like get hurt. But also she doesn't win. So I feel like for her sport, that she has to be perfect in like every vault and everything and every jump she does. I think that'll brings like a crazy amount of pressure. And for her to be like, you know what, I'm like not in the right state in like the right state of mind, or in her words, she has the twisties. I think it's very smart for her to pull out and just to really say to the world, like, it's not about y'all. Like I come first. Another thing that I was
So,
reading.
so, okay, so I have one thing about that. I'm not buying the whole pressure argument. She can handle the pressure, right? To me,
uh,
it's not that. However, in reading up more on like what the twisties are, it's a legit thing. And because we're not gymnasts, and so many people chiming in aren't gymnasts,
yeah,
if you cannot figure out that you did 1.5 twists instead of 2.5, then you're at the risk of like falling on your like landing on your neck and like killing yourself, right? So
literally.
that is the reason. I'm not buying the whole pressure stuff. Like she can handle the pressure. She's a big
Yeah.
girl.
And then what's his name from tennis? The Djokovic. He made a comment literally probably like 2 days ago saying, if you're in this sport, or if you're playing sports, like pressure comes with everything. And then he has his own like breakdown on the court where he's throwing his racket and stuff like that. I mean, if anybody should know anything, karma is like the best thing ever. It really comes around so
Yeah.
fast.
So he also didn't go to his doubles match. So he actually,
Because yeah.
because he was frustrated. Um, but to piggyback off of your point on Simone Biles, so at first I was like, well, this is partially quitting on the team, which is okay because she has to preserve like her health, her like literal life, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, because the U.S. proceeded to win, right? So she,
Not
in
gold though.
still, but a great error from her would have cost the team, right? But her stepping out also allowed her teammates to win individual golds for events.
Mhm.
So her act is not only just preservation of her life, she also sacrificed for the greater good of her teammates and the team. While many folks, including myself at first, had this initial thought of like, oh, she's kind of quitting on a team.
Mhm. So to add to what you just said, there are a few articles out there, and like Simone Biles was very outspoken with this. She does have ADHD. For those who don't know, it's attention deficit hyper disorder. The regular one is ADD. Um, and basically what has happened was in the Olympics now, especially in Tokyo, they're banning her from taking her medication that she's been taking for her entire life. I don't know too much about the type of like medication that she's been taking. I think it is the Ritalin, but it's also kind of like similar to something like uh, I think it's called the
Adderall?
Adderall pill. Yes. So Adderall, I've never taken it, but I've seen people cram semesters worth of work in 2 nights because of Adderall. So my question to you is, or not question, but what's your feeling about this? So when you take that type of drug, it really makes you like super duper focused to where you can block everything out. And some may see that as like a performing enhancing drug, possibly. Who knows? It's still up for like, like yes or no. But the fact that she wasn't able to, like in 2016, that's when she was able to take it. She had like her breakout year. But now in 2020, they're not allowing her to take it. Therefore, she's not performing at her best. Do you feel as if her taking it is like cheating? Is it, like what's your feeling about that?
I would argue it's performance leveling,
Mhm.
not performance enhancing, because if you come in with ADHD, you're actually at a disadvantage already. So in taking the medication, it's actually leveling the playing field for her for a medically recognized diagnosed condition. So that info was made transparent to the parties that needed to be informed. Um, and again, this medication is needed for her to perform on a relatively equal level
Mm.
as her other competitors. So at least they're starting off in a fairly level plane when it comes to all the factors outside of sheer talent.
I feel like that's a good way to put it. Like for me, when it comes to Adderall, I think of like the a, a limitless pill to where you're like super focused and you do like anything. But understanding that she's starting at a disadvantage and not it's not really making her better than anybody. It's just bringing her up to that same level. But when I first heard it, I was like, if she's if you were to get that to like to the average person, like imagine the amount of focus. I feel like it'll be gold medals everywhere. But
Baseball players have been accused. There's some talk
mhm,
behind the scenes of folks who don't have ADHD or just aren't medically diagnosed with it, but because baseball is such a long game
yeah,
and you have to be hyper focused for specific intervals, folks have taken quote uppers to keep them alert and super focused.
yeah,
Um,
these uppers.
so yeah, so if you don't have a medical condition, like yes, that would be performance enhancing. But
Mhm,
if you do have a medical condition, take take what gets you to the point where you could perform at your best. Um,
performance leveling.
I do want, yeah, I do want to transition to another Olympics point, and I think a lot of our work in the workforce development space focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And with that comes this idea of representation. So you noted something about the Olympics in terms of representation. What did you want to bring up?
Yeah. So Olympics is one of the only times where I'm literally watching every sport, and it's amazing how like literally everything is a sport when it comes to like from axe throwing and you know canoeing. But I was watching the table tennis, the doubles match, and it was Taipei, China versus the USA. But when you look at both teams, like all of the players were all clearly Asian. So as I'm watching, I'm like, like for someone who's coming from America, they may not like. I'm pretty sure like if it was like any child, they're like, that's like they're not they don't look like they're from here. But and then it really made me think like, what does it mean to be American? Like, is it an ethnicity or is it like a culture? So for me, I really think it's more of like a culture and like a mindset rather than like an actual label. Um, and I like how you tied it into the work that we do, because I feel like that can, like, the lines could be blurred at times. But what's your thoughts about that?
So let's take Simone Biles' teammate, Suni Lee.
Mm,
She's of Hmong heritage. So she's part of the AAPI community. And we had mentioned in a previous episode, we were talking about Stop Asian Hate, how a lot of stereotypes literally lump Asians like me as like forever foreigners, like we'll never be accepted in America. So for people to still look at someone of AAPI heritage, but wearing the uniform of Team USA and still sort of be taken aback by it or be surprised by it is evidence that there's still more work that needs to be done in terms of seeing AAPI folks as Americans,
mm,
right? So I think that's why when you mentioned this, like it really resonated with me. Will and in growing up undocumented, that's also another layer where I sometimes didn't feel American, even though you can't tell, like there's no accent you can detect from me, right? And
yeah.
my two hometowns are like Hollis, Queens, and Harlem, New York. So, I really don't see myself as a foreigner. But when you look at the Olympics, when you see the gold medal winner in a 100-meter dash is uh, a Black man born in Texas, but represents Italy. That should let everybody know
Yeah.
how globally interdependent we are, how like certain diasporas are all over the place and should be welcomed, and we should be celebrating all of this. And like it's a beautiful thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, when I first saw it, I was just like, you can't label it really. It's just like, everybody who comes here, like everybody could be, like from this country. But um just me thinking about it in like deeper, like in like the eyes of someone who has never seen that before, and just when they think of, someone from the USA team, they may think of someone white, someone black, or something like that. But uh knowing that it's not just white and black, there is, everyone is a part of that. So like for me, I think that was something that I was just like, ooh, like I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't like really speak about much.
The our latest NBA champion, uh, two-time MVP,
Yeah.
is a Nigerian who grew up in Greece, was documented in Greece, right? And he ended up playing and mastering a sport popularized in the US, but created by a Canadian dude. so that's how interdependent sports can be.
Yeah,
And I think it's something for us to all embrace.
I love it.
So yeah. And like look at our show. Like there's some like great representation here. We definitely need some more estrogen in our episodes, but that's to come. And sort of speaking about like this idea of global interdependence, I want to transition into some of the companies that are really, really like transcending borders and really revolutionizing things like finance. So let's go to Square, which
Mm,
reported amazing earnings, but they did something super interesting. They bought a company called Afterpay, which is based out of Australia. So if you don't know what Afterpay does, they're in this space that's really hot right now. So if you've ever, Derek, have you gone like shopping online lately, and you'll see this button that says, "Oh, buy now and pay later in installments."
Yeah, I think Goat has it. Is either Afterpay or Klarna. Goat uses, but that's where I would buy like sneakers from.
Sure. So Klarna's another one, right? So this space of these like installment loans, like buy now and like installment loans, it's a growing space in the fintech world. And Square, and it's evolved from just like taking online payments, like point of sale systems. It's transitioned into banking, and now it's incorporating this other aspect of financial services, which is these buy now, pay later installment loan services. So
Yeah.
initially, a lot of investors or traders thought that they had paid too much for Afterpay. So it actually dipped as much as 4% after, like right after it was announced. And then later on, it went up, I think, around 11%. So if you bought at that 4% dip, you made a nice return in just like a couple hours.
Hmm.
So what do you think about this space, Derek?
I mean, for me as a shopper who probably won't have it all at like that moment, I love it. I don't, just like I said before, I don't know if it's Afterpay or I'm Klarna, but all of my sneakers, I haven't bought through like the full price. I'll probably pay like 2 installments, 3 installments, or 4 installments. But I think for Square to go after them, that's smart. Square, many people have been like, there's this popular guy on YouTube and Twitter that says Square is like the next like JP Morgan Chase in terms of how like they're moving and how like they operate. So I feel like Jack Dorsey is just killing it right now. But I'm really trying to think of like the downfall of like what are the risks of acquiring a tool like that. I can't think of any now, but just still thinking about that. But I see nothing but just upside for Square, because they are like, the like payment system. And if they're able to put that type of tech in the hands of like, all types of like small the business owners, I think that's a major plus.
So a lot of acquisitions are not accretive. They don't add to shareholder value. So that's always
Mhm.
a risk. And for them having to pay up, again, what the market thought was too much, that's always a risk. They also bought around where, like in a time where we think we're at sort of tops, at least for the near term.
Mhm.
So, that's one risk. But at the same time, Jack Dorsey hasn't done this kind of transformative purchase for, let's say, Twitter, right? So maybe this is his way of making up for, what, Twitter could have bought Instagram way back, right? And they didn't. They didn't make any like big moves, Twitter and like Snap or whatever combination. He didn't try for that. So I think he's learned from Twitter and is now being more aggressive with Square. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good way to transition. Talking about tech companies, fintech, and a lot of the complex processes and operations that are involved in running these companies. Um, I think there's no better person to go to when it comes to finding ways to be more efficient and creating automations than you, Derek. So I want to get to the main topic: business automations, right? I think you have the insights to really take us deep into tools that everyone should take a look at.
Yeah, so I'll give you just a quick little backstory. So for my business, what now works? Basically working with like small to mid-sized companies and helping them build up that, that talent strategy. And a lot of the times it is mostly creating that applicant tracking system. So, I mean, it's either, going out and buying a tool like Greenhouse or building something in-house to where you don't have like many hires to, fill. But if you're going for like a bigger amount of hires, then you'll definitely need a tool just probably like Greenhouse or something. But over the past few weeks, I've been working with a couple of clients and just building out like their applicant tracking systems. And I use, so for those who don't know, the tool that I'm using to kind of create these automations between all of these different tools is Zapier. Zapier is my favorite tool. I think it should be in everybody's toolbox. Everybody should learn it. If not learn it, just know that it's there to be used. It really makes life so much easier to where I feel like a lot of people, especially if you're, Chris, you like you and I, we run our own company. So I know for me, I don't have plenty of staff. The only staff I really have is for, the people that I hire from like Fiverr to help with like certain things, but I don't have a person that's always there. So how do I basically spread myself amongst all of these different areas to run this business properly, whether that be client onboarding, social media, finance, and just make sure that everything is right. Rather than me, taking the time to do everything, Zapier has been like a lifesaver in terms of just automating a lot of these processes. So for me, using this tool has saved me time, so much time to where I can really focus on like my clients, focus on like those those like conversations that are really, really meaningful. And basically once I have a new client or there's like a process that's like involved, the automations really, really just like take care of everything.
So to take us through like the stack that you have that makes things so much easier for you.
Cool. So when it comes to my stack, I use Calendly, which is a tool that can help you rather than going back and forth to schedule a time to meet with someone. You send them a link and they can pick a time for you. Google Forms, I would use in Google Spreadsheets. I feel like that's a part of everybody's like toolkit. Typeform sometimes, depending if like I want the form to look like pretty. And Airtable. Airtable is my favorite tool out of them all. I love the way how you can filter certain things. It's to me the UI is 10 times better than Google Spreadsheets. But those are typically like the tools that I am used. I mean, you have your Gmail, of course. But when it comes to running a business, those are the tools that I think are essential. Like that should be in every toolkit.
That's awesome. How about social media and marketing? In terms of automating that, what do you use?
You have Buffer. Buffer is what I use. Buffer, literally, you can schedule the posts. And then by doing that, you can so I'll spend probably like a Sunday doing it in terms of just like scheduling post out. And then I'll schedule out for probably either for like that week or like the next 2 weeks. And then literally it goes out by itself. And the beauty of that is that you have tools like Zapier to where, let's say, for instance, if you saw something that you was like, oh, like, let's make a post about it, rather than, going into, IG or Facebook and like putting the post up, you can set it to go out later. So just putting your thoughts down and then it'll create like a draft post for you. So I find it to be very, very, very useful.
So my last question for you is, what's the trade-offs here? Because I am Mr. Risk, right? And one of the reasons why I'm sometimes hesitant to subscribe to all of these platforms and then integrate it is because once you integrate with other apps, they have access to all that information in those other apps. So let's say once you connect to Instagram and Facebook, then everything that you put on Instagram and Facebook can be pulled by those other apps that you just connected.
Yeah. So data and privacy is one of the biggest things that I think I always I'm really like, do I want to give Calendly access to this calendar? And I'm always thinking about like, what are they going to do with like this access? I will say there are some apps to where you can kind of limit like what they see. So I make sure to do that every time. But I do think that's one of the biggest trade-offs. But I would say the reward is that you save so much time to where if I can create a full blown out system to where if somebody says, Derek, I need help when and once they fill out a form, like an entire process happens to where let's say for instance, like before it was probably done by one person, just receiving the form, reaching out to them via email and scheduling them and stuff like that. But if they can start the process without me having to do it, I'd rather save that time over anything because on their end, it just seems as if I'm on point on everything. Everything's coming fast. There's no like wait time. There's no like questions to like be answered or like asked because I'm giving them everything that they need. So as a potential client, I'm like, oh, this person is really on point. Like meanwhile, I haven't even looked at that email yet, but I just know that this whole process just happened. And for me, the idea of saving probably like an hours worth of work of going just like back and forth into seconds, I'd have that any day.
So that's a convincing argument. Like that time savings is really, really important so that you can use the extra time to make more money, bring in more money, think about longer term strategy
Yeah.
for your business ventures. So just to recap, Zapier, Airtable, and then tools that you might have, come across already, like Calendly, Google Sheets, and Google Forms. If not, Typeform for surveys are super helpful on the social media and marketing side in terms of scheduling posts. Buffer is a tool that has been quite popular within our networks as well.
Like for you, Chris, is there any processes that you have that you spend the most time on when it comes to your clients?
So a lot of the org strategy really can't be automated.
Yeah.
That's actually the part that I enjoy the most. I like digging deep in the data. However, when I'm on either Excel or Google Sheets, I like to set up the formulas so that anytime some new input is entered, I can get the immediate result, the tally, the count, so that I can have the most updated information. So something as simple as making sure the formulas are in and they're properly linked to other tables. That's been super helpful for me. So not to the level of automation that you've done it, but I think that's the part that I feel is most helpful when I talk about strategy with other orgs.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's like a level of like automation to itself. It may not be as complex as the ones that I've made, but the fact that you're putting in formulas to make sure that when new data does flow in, there's something that happens, like the data gets changed into something different. I think that is a form of automation right there. But that's cool. I mean, when it comes to like these Google spreadsheet formulas, it is a beast. And that's something that I need to really brush up on.
Yes, there's also a button that if you're on Google Sheets, it actually uses AI and it can come up with the formulas for you. So I'll show that to you all.
Yeah.
If you go to the button you should see on a spreadsheet is like the explore button on the bottom right. It'll be in green. It looks like a star. And you can use Google's artificial intelligence capabilities to actually help you reorganize your Google Sheet to come up with the formulas literally by sometimes asking it just a question.
Yep, it says ask about this data.
Exactly. And it'll come up with either an answer for you or the formula for you as well. So it's something.
yeah, that's crazy. It just amazes me. Like, I feel like with tech, like no matter, I guess, like I feel when something this powerful, like it's always going to be you're good and bad. But when it's good, it's like thank you for that. But when it's bad, it's just like God damn it, like come on now.
So my thing is, instead of just using so many different tools, just master a few first.
Yeah.
And once you've done that, then move on to like the next tool. That way you won't be all over the place. So that's how I prefer to do it, in terms of sticking with a few tools. But, as I do some pivots in terms of the business, I will seek your advice in terms of automation. And I hope our audience, as you follow, like, and comment and share on YouTube and also on Instagram when you see clips, or even on Spotify where you see clips of the show. I hope you take good note of this particular episode if you're trying to find ways to make your work life or make your venture just run a little bit more smoothly using some fairly simple to use tools
Mhm.
like Zapier and Airtable. So we'll have those linked on this episode of the Risk Reward Show on YouTube once we're done. So thank you for sharing your insights, Derek, on those valuable tools.
No problem. Happy to help. Yeah, but um I'll see what I'll do is I'll share like my most like popular ones too. Just for anybody who uses a lot of the same like tools that I use. I have one for Slack where it just, reaches out to everybody there if there's like a certain update that happens. So I'll share with you some like popular apps that I have that work really, really well.
Appreciate that. And our audience, I'm sure, will appreciate it as well. And that brings us to the right move right now, our closing segment. And we are in the middle of earnings season. And what I want to let people know is that typically this August, September, October period, seasonally, it's some of the most difficult times if you're long stocks. So if you're a long-term investor, generally, we're taught like just roll with the punches. This is a blip in our longer term horizon. So I'm doing that as well. So I'm not selling anything crazy. However, I have bought more VIX options and I made some money on that today. I made 50% on that today, pretty easily, because again, for me, it feels like it's toppy, and how I'm going to protect my long positions is I'm going to buy a little bit of volatility index options to play any downside, because it's very correlated with downside movement in the stock market. What's your right move right now, Derek?
To really piggyback off what you were just talking about, there's this app called Quarter. It's Quarters without the E. This is a very, very amazing app. If you are the one who is either new to stocks or you are actively, learning about these stocks, basically what this app does, it has access, or you gain access to all of the earnings calls that are happening, and it plays just like a podcast. So for anybody who listens to any type of podcast, if you can listen to a podcast, you can listen to some type of earnings call. Literally all weekend, I caught up on literally probably about like 20 companies. Just hearing, this is happening. We have these numbers happening, or we're going to change our approach for this quarter, stuff like that. So just being able to hear the words from these these C-suite people, and just to hear it from them, I think that means a lot more. And for me, I feel so informed as a long-term holder for a lot of the stocks that I have.
So, yes. So it sounds like a valuable tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who are just like either trying to read charts, or like you do things on a whim, I think if you go to some fundamental analysis and look at people's earnings, look at earnings growth or whether or not growth is decelerating. These are important factors to consider whether or not you should put some of your hard-earned money in whatever security that you want to try to buy or sell. So thanks for that. Again, you just like helping us out with all the tools, Derek. Appreciate that.
No
You're
problem.
doing the hard work for us.
And another thing I'll add about Quarter is that you're also able to see the slides too. I know last week you mentioned how the slides are like for marketing purposes, but it's cool to like literally follow along as like they're talking.
So don't fall in love with what you see because they are marketing. However, they also have to report the facts, right? And you know, if you read between the lines, you see people hinting at either, you know, best growth that they've had in a while, and like they have visibility, that might be a good sign. But if they start mentioning that there's weakness or start blaming weird factors like the weather, right? That's when you start becoming a little concerned.
It's no one over here.
So just exactly. So just keep that in mind, right? That they are trying to put their best foot forward, and you need to, you know, not just take their word for it, but dig deeper into the numbers, and that'll teach you some fundamental analysis that won't just be helpful for looking at stocks, but literally your business ventures, how you think critically and in an analytical way in terms of your career. So thanks again, Derek, for the tools. That's definitely helping us all out.
Yes.
So with that, we wrap up episode number 25. We paid attention to a lot of your input. Keep it shorter. I think we did a good job keeping it shorter again. So we appreciate the feedback. Again, comment, like, follow, share on YouTube particularly. Also, check us out on Instagram, and you'll see a few episodes on Spotify. We are actually trying to build out this side of our team in terms of helping to build out more social media promotion. We do really appreciate folks who rode along with us this whole time, even without the all the fancy promotion. So thank you very much for listening and sharing.
All right.
And with that, have a good night, and we'll see you next week, Monday, 5:30 Eastern time, as usual.
All right. See you guys later.